A little too many buttons pushed.
Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we need to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Approve minutes.
I would move to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, corrections, anything? Okay. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, public comment.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Ken Jumper, La Crescent Township. You often like to start the new year being optimistic, but I have to say I'm not very optimistic about this year in regards to zoning in Houston County. A lot of it has to do with a public hearing I attended at the end of the year in December in regards to the request for a CUP from Bruning Rock Products. That public hearing for a CUP request should have never occurred, because as that meeting unfolded, it became quite clear that Bruning Rock Products had violated their operations for their existing mining activity in the Winnebago area. There's been a complaint filed with the Pollution Control Agency. The Pollution Control Agency was working with them. That public hearing should have never occurred. They should have never been allowed to go ahead, and it did because of the activities of the zoning administrator. I'm here to complain about the way the zoning administrator is conducting his work activity. He should have, if you read through the section on mining in the ordinance, and I would encourage all 5 of you to spend a little time reading through the mining section in our ordinance. It says when there's a violation has occurred, the zoning administrator should be in here asking you for a certification of non-compliance in order to stop the mining activity until that's cleared up. Instead, he was sitting there in a very strong advocacy manner, in my opinion, trying to help them get a new CUP for their mining activity in the Winnebago area. I thought that was completely wrong. He needs to be worked with by you on the county board to get his activities straightened out. Secondly, back in July and August, and Jack, you're familiar with this, we had filed a request for a decision on his part that mining activity in the Schutz mine be declared improper and illegal because they were not a legal, non-conforming mine. And we have been working with him, trying to get him to make that assessment ever since then. And he keeps putting us off and stonewalling us on that. We met with him in mid-December, and he had said at that time he had twice corresponded with the operators of that mine, and they had twice not met deadlines he had set for them to provide information as to why they were a legal non-conforming mine. So we submitted our request for a public hearing to the Board of Adjustment. We paid our $400, and he refuses to give us a public hearing before the Board of Adjustment on these issues. So frankly, Commissioners, you have a zoning administrator that's not doing his job. He either doesn't understand the ordinance or he's intentionally not following it. But I would like to encourage you, again, to read through the section on mining so you know what we're talking about and to take that up with him, because we're going to keep pursuing this. The public hearing on the Bruning request, the CUP request, has been delayed till mid-February. We don't anticipate there's any way the issues are going to be resolved because the 2 landowners, the adjacent landowners where the violation occurred, have both indicated they're not going to sign off on this, which Bruning Rock Products was pressuring them to do. So this issue of them requesting a new CUP should not go forward until that issue of a violation is resolved. And then that's not going to occur until the zoning administrator comes in here and asks you for a certification of non-compliance. So I hope you will take this seriously and work through it. And finally, Commissioner Connor, your name came up at that public hearing. Apparently, you made a comment to another adjoining property owner in that area who was concerned about that activity, that permit, that request for a CUP was absolutely going to be approved. I don't think that's your proper role as an elected official.
I don't think you got any proper information either.
Well, that may well be, and that's why I'm bringing it up to you, just to
I do know my
inform you
role.
that.
And that's not it. I don't make that decision.
Well, I don't think anyone should be prejudging those CUPs if you're a county commissioner until the public hearing has occurred, until information has been presented, until you get a recommendation from the planning commission.
I agree.
So, I want to bring that to your attention. Commissioners, I'm very dead serious about this. I think you need to sit down with this zoning administrator and straighten him out on what his role is and what he should be doing and how he should be handling these violations of mining activity. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Okay. Mr. Podolzynski.
Are you paying attention so you know what you're supposed to do?
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I have several items I'm in to recommend approval on today. First item is the loader, compact track loader discussion that we had a couple weeks ago. Back would recommend purchasing the Bobcat T770 compact track loader at a cost of $18,223.15.
This is something too that, not to keep kicking the can down the road, but had a few phone calls this morning and throughout end of last week. I'd like to postpone this a little bit so I can get all my information together and get it out to the commissioners. There's a few things that I would like to, some information I guess I'd like everybody to have before we make a decision on this, so I'd like to just wait a little bit.
I don't know what the proper format for that would be, quite frankly. We don't have a motion in front of us.
I'll move to table until the following week, until the following board meeting.
I would second.
The following board meeting will be the first meeting in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does this affect you much, Brian, at all?
It shouldn't. I guess I would like to know what the issues are, so that way we can.
I can
Yeah,
email them
maybe
to you. I got some words from John Deere as far as the maintenance. I've got some information from Bobcat too about just the overall use. I talked to Caterpillar on a few things. They wanted to be kind of involved a little bit more than they said they haven't had an opportunity. So there's a lot of things that I guess kind of getting bombarded with that I'd like to put down, and I'll email you what those are. But like I said, literally just got off the phone with two vendors as I was driving in. So I myself need to kind of straighten things out. So that's why I want just a little bit of time to get it organized and get it out to the other commissioners and email you and let everybody know we're all on the same page. So.
Well, we can discuss that motion in second a little bit. I would say that I've spent some time with Pat and a little bit with Brian too since the last meeting, talking about the spec sheet. No, it was 2 meetings ago. It was the first meeting in the year, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, and then you weren't here last week. Okay. But anyway, I've spent some time talking with those people, especially Pat, about the spec sheet on that particular machine, and I understand from the specifications why he chose that machine over a couple of others. But when we have new information, different information, and it isn't going to interfere operationally with the highway department. I see the sense to delaying it personally. Any other discussion?
No, I feel the same. Brian explained it to me, what I looked at and stuff. I'm sure they did their due diligence, but if somebody's got questions that we should look at, we should look at them.
Okay. Any other comments? Nope. Okay. The motion then is to delay this for 2 weeks. And all those in, pardon me?
We have a meeting next week.
No.
Oh, no, that's the special meeting.
That's
I'm
the,
sorry, special meeting.
what do you call it? I can't remember the right term, but
Strategic planning.
yeah, retreat. There we go. Strategic planning meeting, whatever. Okay. No, we don't meet again as a action group until 1st of February, so it's 2 weeks. Okay. Those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. Next item, Brian.
Next item would be the pickup state bid reapproval. So when we came in, we were told that Mike Motors had the state bid for the Dodge 5500 pickup. We found out at that time, we were provided the information from the state bid, found out that actually that there was we were told, I guess, the wrong information, that there's a different vendor that was selected for 2 of the Dodge 5500 trucks. This other vendor that we got approval last time had the approval on all the other 500 or 5500 models. So 2 models were different. So the model that we approved was actually a different vendor, which should have been the Dodge of Burnsville. The state bid cost is $47,360.55, which is about $1,900 less than the dollar amount previously approved. So I'd like to get approval on the corrected state bid number and vendor.
I'll make a motion to approve the corrected state bid for Dodge of Burnsville.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, the next item that was on the agenda is the Gunderson Clinic agreement. I've spoken with Sam about that before in the past. Got a text from Tess last night. We would like to withdraw that approval today. We want to talk about that some more as far as options we might come back together in the future. So we'll withdraw that.
Brian, can you expand on that a bit? I'm not sure what we're...
Yep. So we have CDL, staff with CDL licensure. They need to have their annual physicals, DOT physicals. We have a contract price for that and drug testing. You know, if there's an accident, this all needs to get sent in. We have an agreement with both Mayo Clinic and Gunderson. We go to either or depending on where the accident's at and who's available at the time. You know, weekends they might have one might be staffed, the other one might not be staffed. So we have rates that are set. So the agreement essentially sets what we'll pay for that. There's some other medical stuff that happens at the county too, besides for highways. So that's where Tess would like us to just wait up a little bit and maybe come back with a new agreement. So.
Thank you.
Next
Did
item
we
then.
only have the bid from Gunderson? We didn't have a bid yet from Mayo, or?
We have numbers for Mayo.
Okay.
The agreements just come due at different times, and with
okay.
what Gunderson wants and Mayo wants are 2 totally different type of.
Is there a date that we have to approve this by?
No, I mean they would like to see it done sooner rather than later, but they've been honoring the price without the agreement approved. So. Next item then would be approval of the plat and resolution for project SAP 28-612-013. This is going to be a bridge replacement. It's a small
Brad,
box culvert.
Do we need to have a vote to approve this Gunderson thing?
No,
Today it's just going to be
tabled.
just
Till next
withdrawn,
week.
so there doesn't even need to be a motion on that.
Yeah, okay. Just checking.
So we will need to have a motion then and approval of the plat and resolution for project 028-612-013. Bridge replacement project in County 12, just outside of Caledonia. It's a small box culvert, big enough to be considered a bridge. We want to replace that sometime here, late spring, early summer is our goal. Met with the landowners. The landowners have signed off on the land purchase agreement, so we can get this plat done. We can bid the project out and hopefully build it soon.
I'll make a motion to approve the right-of-way plat number 72.
Yep.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, then one final item.
Oh,
and,
really? You're over your limit already.
I got started late. This one could take a little bit longer, so it's up to the board on how long you want to spend on this topic. Justin brought this up last week. I met with some airport flyers and people that are interested in what happened out at the airport 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, for a couple hours. And they would like to see the airport commission reinstated by the county and have more of a say at the table on what happens at the airport. We're in the process now of getting ready to update our airport layout plan and master plan. I think it's a great idea to have input from the flyers. They have, they're the ones that are the most affected by it. The county also has a lot of interest because it's county money, it's county project. There was an airport commission that was in place up until, I'm going to say 5-6 years ago. I don't know the exact date of when that airport commission essentially got disbanded. There's been some there's some good things that came out of those meetings, although there's also some issues with knowing everyone's role and what the airport commission is there for, what is needed from them. I think it would be good to set up an airport commission in one manner or another. I think we need to have county employees, commissioners, and some flyers or other individuals on the commission. But ultimately, the board's the one that's going to be setting that commission up if we do go that route again. So I can provide some names of what I would recommend, or you guys can come up with stuff. It's up to you. I don't know if you want to continue on with.
Well, and I think Brian had a good point too. We were talking. I think the last airport commission was mainly the flyers out there, and I think a lot of the information got not going to say biased, but pushed excessively hard due to self-interests out there, where there wasn't, I don't believe, and Ryan, please add in, but I don't believe there was enough input on the other side of it, from the county side of it, saying, well, wait a second. A lot of it, when we were looking at the airport expansion program, it was getting very heavily pushed, but the county still would have had to spend like $400 and some thousand of taxpayer money in order to get it done. So, the airport committee was more like a lobbying group towards the Board of Commissioners, and the Board of Commissioners really didn't know what was going on, and that's where it got to. And I think, Brian had made a comment that, maybe if this was to get reinstated, having kind of a more diverse group on there, have some people, the flyers, but have some people from the Highway Department building, some of the commissioners, and have it a little bit more well represented, if you would. Did I kind of summarize that?
Yep, like maybe EDA or Caledonia.
Yeah.
Just.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the commission back when Justin's talking about, and I would concur with his opinion of how it operated. And I'd rather see a more comprehensive look at it than simply lobbying again from people who would benefit from it. And not that benefiting from it would be a bad thing, but we have to look at what it would cost to do what is requested from people.
How big a group of people are we looking at Any feeling for that? Do we want to keep it at 5, 6, 7? Do we want to get it to 10 or 12?
No, I would keep it smaller than bigger for a number of reasons. One, it's hard to get everybody's schedule, get more
Yep.
people. It's hard to schedule meetings. The other thing is it's hard for meetings to be productive. Sometimes you get too many people. Upon initial thought, and everybody please chime in on this one, I'm thinking if you had, say, 2 commissioners, well, here, I'm thinking off the top of my head. So let's say you had 2 commissioners, right? Brian is airport manager. There's 3. Say 2 people from the Flyers. There's 5. Say EDA is 6 and 7. I don't know. What would you think, Brian?
Well, I was thinking along the lines a little bit differently, but pretty much the same. We hear an awful lot of noise about how beneficial a more expanded airport will be to, quote, business interests. Well, okay, let's see if we can find one person from the business sector, one person from tourism, with tourism interests, and a couple of flyers, obviously the staff person, and then either 1 or 2 board members.
Well, you could do that because that 7th person could be a business owner or something, or even
Well,
if you
yeah.
had, sure.
Yeah, I don't think, well, it would depend on the scheduling of the thing, of course, but I really doubt if we could ask Courtney to do that as EDA director. It would probably have to be an evening meeting, and then you're pretty restricted as to what evening.
Then we could go with Caledonia Chamber of Commerce possibly, or something like that,
Yeah,
that has a
that's
little more rounded
Yeah.
area of the area.
Well,
Yeah.
and
There's
Scott,
a
you make
guy on
good
the
point.
EDA board from Caledonia that I think, if he had time, could do it.
Scott just said something that struck something too. Caledonia, the city of Caledonia, would be the one that was going to benefit the most
Right,
too.
if there's an economical advantage of people flying in and out, then they should
Yeah.
be probably aware of anything that's beneficial.
There are a couple of businesses in Spring Grove who might be large enough to see some benefit from it. I don't know that. As long as it isn't actually on the agenda, we probably shouldn't be taking any action today.
No.
But I would ask the auditor to put it on the agenda for next week as,
Or the February 1st meeting.
well, not next, I'm sorry, now I did it. February, the first meeting in February as an item for action, possibly. Any further, and then in between times, we as board members could be talking to people about, would you be interested in being on this group, and explain it to them and see what we come up with.
And I would think if we're looking at a business owner, I'm wondering if we should propose it to certain businesses over certain sizes, or open it up for any business, or in order. Okay, let me say, generally, it's not going to be the small mom and pop shop that's going to be getting a lot of air traffic through here. It's going to be companies like, say, Miken, that's a global company, or at least nationwide.
How do we let business people know that this is there, and see if we actually get somebody that's going to want to do it?
And see, and that's the thing. You put it out in the paper saying we're looking for a business owner to represent this. Do we just email?
Maybe we
certain
have a
people?
gentleman here who might be able to do that for
That's why I
us.
think the Chamber of Commerce might come in, because they
Yeah.
talk to all the business people.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah, just go
Yeah.
to the Chamber
Yeah,
of Commerce and deal with it.
Otherwise,
okay.
if we each choose to talk to someone, we might just muddle the water.
Right.
Well, and I think
Yeah.
the other thing is, even if you had the first meeting with 6 people and say we're going to have the 7th, but who should we? How should the chamber say, hey, would you guys want to?
Right.
I don't know, but you're right.
And then, if the chamber decide to put somebody on there, then they can talk to all their business people.
Well, and they probably have the
and-
emails and
Oh,
contact
yeah,
for quick,
right.
just.
Oh, for everybody, right.
Yeah.
do you want, who should contact the chamber? You wanna do that?
I certainly could,
Scott?
if we,
Okay.
Is that all right?
just, not saying that this is for sure, but would you be interested in having somebody on the planning commission?
The airport commission.
Or airport commission?
Maybe the planning commission
Planning
too.
commission too, I mean, never hurts to get involved.
Yeah.
Widen the scope a bit.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe at the next meeting, just maybe get some ideas as far as committee layout. Is that what we're kind of thinking to do at the next meeting?
Yeah, basically laying it out and seeing if we have actually developed some interest and
Yep.
see what's going on.
Assuming all I know is evening meeting once,
Yeah,
once a month, would they have this?
I don't even know if you need it once a month, quarterly
Right,
maybe.
quarterly.
Yeah, maybe quarterly, or, during this initial process as we go through the airport layout plan, maybe, a couple times we might need to have once a month, but
Yeah.
usually once a quarter should be sufficient.
Quarterly plus.
okay. Is that all, Brian?
That'll be all.
Wunderbar.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Mr. Frank?
Would the board mind if I just bring Aaron up too? We can go through his, and then I've got several items. He's just got one there that we can maybe.
Fine with me.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So Rick has offered to let me go first here, and that I only have one item, and it is to update you on the floodplain map updates, specifically in the Sheldon area. We've been in a multi-year process of updating the floodplain maps throughout the county. As I understand it, part of the reason that's taking so long is because the county appealed the maps as they were proposed in the Sheldon area. Based on the LiDAR contour data, typically you see the floodplain essentially following the contour of the land. There it was not doing that, and the result was that the entire community would have been placed in the new map, within the floodplain in the new maps. The DNR had supported that appeal. They reworked the models, and they've come up with a new proposed map. It has more of the community in the floodplain than was in the prior maps, but significantly less than what would have been covered with the original proposed map. There is a process where we can provide comments based on these newly updated proposals. I'm not recommending that we do that. Any further appeal would be a process where we'd have to get hydraulic data or analysis equaled or more rigorous than FEMA uses, and I don't think that the data support that. I believe that the new maps are correct. So I'm just updating you on that. You've got some maps that show what the originals were and what it will look like after that. Lastly on this, because this appeal or this reworking of that area is done, it's expected that the county-wide maps will be no longer delayed, and right now our estimated date for letter of final determination, which is when we can move forward to adopt them, is the second quarter of this year. It's been pushed back a couple times, but DNR suggested that much of that was due to the fact that they were reworking this area.
Now,
I did receive the whole packet also, because at that time I was chair when we first started the whole process of the appeal. And this is definitely to our benefit, this updated process with our new floodplain map. I did look at it very closely, trying to figure out what it was about initially, but it's a good thing for us, actually.
and it does make sometimes a lot of difference to individuals who are either in or out of that floodplain as far as construction is concerned and insurance.
Right now, because the process has taken so long, there is a method by which we're able to permit in areas that are currently in but will be removed, and we do that based on the elevations. But for insurance purposes, those rates are driven by the official adopted map, so I think a lot of folks will be happy when we're finally able to adopt the new maps and they can no longer have to
Yeah.
purchase the flood insurance.
Okay. Now, I believe we need a motion.
No, I'm just,
No.
I'm just updating you.
You're
I
just
don't need
updating.
any action.
Okay, fine.
This has been a long process,
Yeah,
several years in the making.
Okay, well, thank you much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Every year, we do, work with the Department of Agriculture.
Rick, could you pull that mic a little bit closer, please? It moves quite a bit, so.
Okay, every year, my office works with the Department of Agriculture, and we need to develop annual reports that go into the state on the amount of grant money that we get. Every year, we request a certain amount of money. That money goes into feedlot fix-ups, septic systems, well abandonments and replacements, and a number of other things that are in the plan to. This money actually is low-interest loan money that's paid back to the state, and actually it's the state working with the federal government for these programs. The initial money comes from the federal government to the state and then back to the local units of government. This year, I've been working with Aaron on these for, especially the feedlot fix-up is a big money item that gets, and then also the replacement on septic systems. Well abandonment and replacement is starting to pick up too. What we have requested from the state is a little over $410,000 this year through this program. That request now is up to the state. Like I said, there is a pool of money. We've had years where we have went over that amount of requested, and the state has, there's other counties sometimes don't spend it, so we're able to request that money and keep the revolving funds or these funds going out to our constituents that are there. What we have been doing with this here is working with the Soil Conservation Service. They've usually got a hands-on of people that are looking at expanding or needing some assistance in technical work, and so that works well. And we kind of keep correspondence going on what the future may lie, or this year may lie, and who they're working with and what kind of money they may need. So, given all that, that's the amount. It's a little over $410,000 that we're looking at spending this year, and I just want to bring that to the board's attention. Like I said, that grant has been handed in. We've been doing this since probably the mid-90s when this started, and these programs have started, and this is something we've been doing every year.
Explain that, Rick. You say we get a grant for $400,000. It's not a free grant, it's an interest, low interest loan.
The way this is set up is like say a feedlot operator would put plans together. He needs feedlot permits and everything approved. He would say, come into my office, and there's a forms we need to fill out. There is no financial, as long as you're a county resident, you basically are approved to apply for this. We would look at that, there's forms filled up. The lending institutions or the banks that they deal with are basically responsible for this money. They ended up requesting it from the state for a certain amount of dollars. It comes down to the bank lends it out, they collect it, and goes back up to the state, then to be revolved back out again to more people.
Okay.
That money is basically at a 3% rate. So it's very competitive with lending, and lending institutions basically get a 0.5% origination fees on this, but it's that's how it works. The county does not have any liability with this thing. It's just that we're working with it, and
Right. Just a tool to help get everything going.
yes.
Our role is to certify that the proposed project meets,
Meets certain requirements.
right, it could be for a project that doesn't further the underpinning goals of the program, like it's pretty much water quality. And to that end, I think that the water planning board outlines the general requirements that we look for when we evaluate whether a project qualifies or not. The big projects are typically manure storage, which is very expensive. So, we have in there how many projects were done last year, and it's not a high number of projects because a manure pit is it can go a long way into eating up $400,000.
So do you need a motion
Do we
to
need a
approve this
motion?
grant, or it's already been submitted?
It is, it's already submitted. We had to have it in, there's certain timelines that we've got to meet. And we've submitted that, but we're bringing that forward to the board's attention there that, yeah, this is what we're doing and
Yeah. But
that you're
no
well aware.
motion necessary at this
Right.
point, it's just informational, yeah, okay.
Thank you. Few other things I have, and I think we sent the list of the solid waste haulers
Yeah.
license, that's every year, that needs to, and the intermediate licenses that are out there that we've looked at. The haulers met all the requirements, the fees are paid, the amount of insurance that's required under the solid waste ordinance is met, and that we were looking for board approval for the haulers that want to do businesses in Houston County here. It's the same license, and there's requirements in that, within the license that they have to meet. Most of them, since we went under this program, have been, we haven't had a problem with it. Once in a while, we may find another hauler that might come into the county, just not knowing what the licenses are and the requirements with it. But rule of thumb is basically to do business within Houston County, everything needs to go to La Crosse County. Our garbage, our landfill material, that sort of stuff. So, and like I said, we went through them one by one, and they all met the requirements that we're asking for, or the county's got. And I would recommend to the board that they be approved.
This is a very good thing too, that we are licensing our haulers and our, because we have a little control over what's happening then in the county, and it's been a real plus for Houston County to do this. I'll make a motion to approve the contractors as listed, the haulers checklist.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried.
The next thing I sent to you is the contract between Houston and Winona County. It's for our operations and household hazardous waste program. This is a 5-year contract. We've had them in the past with Winona County. The reason we do have it with Winona County, they're the regional facilitator for this area. Our funding for our household hazardous waste is required to go through a regional facility. We don't go directly to the state. The contract, there's certain things that within the contract that the county must meet. We have in the past, this is how we've handled both our hazardous waste funding, and plus the Department of Agriculture goes through that also when we collect in the county. Like I say, our funding, we get reimbursed a staff stipend, and the amount of material that we collect, we get a certain amount of money that's in a pool that comes that is remitted back to Houston County, and that's how we fund that portion of our solid waste programs. Winona County, like I said, we looked at this. There has been some changes. I went through the contract, and then I also had sent it over to the county attorney's office to have him look at it, and he had no problem with it. So I would ask that the board if there's any other questions, but ask the board if there's no problems that we approve the contract between Winona and Houston County for household hazardous waste.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Winona County Regional.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay. Rick, this is something it's an every year occurrence.
This is a 5-year contract.
Okay, this is that's right, you said that, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a couple of items here.
We haven't approved that yet. Are you still on that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Ahead of myself.
Okay, those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, now, Rick.
Just a couple of things that are for the board's information going through through my office right now. One is, we've had several calls in regard to hazardous waste collection. What are the dates? What I want to basically let the public know is that one is the brochure that we put out every 2 years. Hopefully we will have that out somewhere around March 1st, right in there. It will have all the dates for the household hazardous waste collections for the next 2 years, because it is a 2-year brochure. And working with La Crosse County, who has the mobile unit that helps us out on that, we've had those scheduled and in line. Just to let the public know that we have at May 24th, it'll be at the Recycling Center in Houston. July 12th, it will be at the Caledonia Fairgrounds. And then August 23rd, it'll be at the Hoka Fire Station this year. Following year, I do go then to La Crescent and Spring Grove area. So we kind of shop those around. But that brochure, like I said, and there's a number of changes within the brochure and then updates on it.
How does it differ from what we just approved with Winona?
Well, we've got, what happens is Winona basically, being with the state of Minnesota, we have to have a regional facility that handles all of our funding. Everything goes through Winona for our funding for the program. And Winona does not have a mobile unit.
Okay, so it's a funding, but the funding, we end up paying La Crosse County.
Right.
Right.
Okay, all right, that's good.
This all happened back in the floods because La Crosse came over with their mobile units at them 7 and 8s and 10s and basically helped us out on a lot of that stuff. And it really, when they come in, you're bringing the service to the people, you really get good participation. And that's why we took off of La Crosse.
Okay, good.
Oh yeah, the other thing is fluorescent bulb collection, we do that every year. That is set for April 7th of this year. It's on a Saturday, and we do that at the dump sites.
Okay.
And then you contact the schools and everybody?
Yes,
Yes.
they're all personally contacted.
Yeah.
Rick, does any of this get on the community website?
Yes,
If
it
you go to
will be on our
Caledonia
county
and stuff?
website.
Good.
County website,
When it comes to the haz waste collection dates, we usually put notices in the papers and everything else. And like I say, now, March 1st, what I do is usually give the brochures to the newspapers, and they stuff them in newspapers, and like the shoppers and the supplemental papers that go out, we get it flooded out that way.
I just didn't know about on ACE's community, Caledonia community, each one's got a community spot. I'd like to go on there to make sure the dump's open.
Normally, I work with the cities, they get the brochures, so they know the dates and everything that's coming out. Yeah, I've had a couple calls from La Crescent area, there's people looking for these dates already.
Yeah.
The last thing I just want to bring to the attention of the board is I've been working with, the office did hire a new personnel, and that part of their duties was ag inspector. We've been working with the Township Association. Their immediate request was for a educational meeting on weed identification and enforcement, because there is a lot of what we might say new weeds being introduced, the invasives. What I did was contacted the extension office and working with Mike Cruz there, and he's got a couple of people that are going to assist in that. And also, we have personnel coming down from the Department of Ag as far as the enforcement of it and what is going to needs to be required as far as if the county's going to start assisting in the enforcement of the noxious weed law. I've set that up, and we've got everything set for February 13th. It's from 1 to 3:30 at the CJC here, Criminal Justice Center basement. Notices as I went out personally to each township officer, inviting them in, and just kind of, and I'd asked Fred to maybe give a welcome speech in it, and then maybe introduction of our new
It'll be brief, trust me.
the new ag inspector that the counties went ahead and hired. So I just want to make sure that the board, like I said, is informed of those things that are, those activities that are going on in the office.
I worked very hard with that because I was on that extension committee, the search committee, and I served with Tim Alt, who is a ag extension person, to contact Mike and get this going. So
Yeah, he's been very good to work with.
Excellent to work with,
Yeah.
yes. He has demonstrations of, and he'll have samples of the weeds and everything.
Yes,
So it's really a good thing.
this will help the townships.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Anything else?
If I could get you to come over to the office afterwards and then sign those solid waste, our applications or the that goes out, and then also the has waste contracts too, Fred, after the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next appointment is with Attorney Yount, and he called me ahead of the meeting this morning and said he's in court, he'll get here as soon as he can.
That's fine, we can.
And so we just move on with the agenda, and when he comes, he's going to be in a bit of a hurry, and so we're going to have to kind of just break and go into the closed session and do it, and then come back out. Okay. Action items, claims, human services, and license center disbursements.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded, no discussion, I assume. Those approved, aye. Aye, passed. And then approved lease agreement with Ag Society for Fairgrounds. Scott, before we, oh, he's gone. Yeah, okay. This might appear to be off the subject, but it's not really. Scott and I met with Brian and Pat yesterday for about 2 hours talking about the Highway Department building project. And we are thinking about ways of potentially expanding that site to a certain extent, which means obviously going east instead of west, because that door got closed by a property valuation thing. So I don't know for sure where we are really with that, as far as Scott, I didn't get a chance to talk to Sam about where we were legally with expanding up the hill for the Highway Department building site if we sign a lease.
Well, and I guess, this has been brought up, this is brought up several times. Technically, that's county land, right? Now, I understand the fair saying, well, we may have a horse show or, a cattle show or something sometime during the summer. So they're saying, well, we don't want to take any more parking away. the only kicker is we have a whole bunch more parking, like where the fair, the rides and stuff are. I mean, that whole grass area, if you needed, I mean, if we need it more,
Right.
I guess I guess my initial thought is, if we were to prioritize something, the highway department that conducts business every day is a little bit more important on a priority list than, a few horse shows or cattle shows throughout the summer. Make sense? My personal thought.
Yeah.
So
But we're
if we have
talking-
to, I mean, do we just write the lease that just says, hey, we may need this, or, I mean, how?
There is a clause like that in the lease, but I don't know if there are
Well,
limits
what it basically says
as to
is
how
a-
far we
a
can
1.38 acres of area that we're looking at there, that they will lease by the year instead of a 50-year.
Okay.
Right.
But that still doesn't give us, once we lease it by the year, then it's a whole year before we could ever use it again.
Well, could you excerpt that out of the lease totally and just say, this is what we will lease, is the spot we guarantee?
Right.
And
You
then
can-
that, we don't know
We'll
yet?
work with you on everything else when we can remove stuff from that spot,
Yeah, right.
and that's what we were talking about the county, that'd be a lot of storage stuff that, for the fair, actually, they could move stuff off of that, definitely. But they couldn't guarantee every time they have a rodeo once a month that they're gonna move stuff. That they would have to find alternate.
What we're talking about in reality is approximately 100 feet further east, and we would gravel it. So it would be actually a better deal for the fair, because they'd have that area gravelled instead of as it is now. If it rains, we got a problem getting cars in and out.
And you see the picture here, Fred, with their 1-year proposed lease, 1.83 acres? They have it, they sent us a
Yeah.
picture of it.
I think that we're covered.
That's the
I
area we
think
were
we're
hoping to
okay
get.
with it, and then we can just go ahead and sign, make the motion to approve it, sign it, and be done with it. I think we're all right with that.
Here's
at
a
this
question.
It was pretty,
Is there a way, you look at like where the building comes down and you go over and even down and just say this is county stuff. If you need this, this could be temporary storage stuff for county things, that this could be used as parking for the fair, but yet, like, I'm just saying, equipment or whatever that you could, because, that would be a natural, and then you still have all the parking over here or everywhere else, or if they had a big event, we could figure something out, but, I mean, geez, that would almost 30%, 40% larger to the whole site if you could go right to the horse barn, basically, just a line from the barns down and say this is not leased. Everything else is leased, but that's not, because we may need that.
I mean, I basically say, the lease as it stands without the proposed 1-year lease. This, what they have is in the lease minus this, we want this to be not a proposed lease. This isn't leased at all.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yep. Yep, I would agree.
We will plan on letting you use it, we'll plan on evacuating it during the fair time and stuff for a 2-week period, but, for parking, we'll give it to you for the fair, that's the only time we can really guarantee it.
I would agree. Yep.
so you're suggesting taking out that one section of the lease agreement that,
And I think the way it's written, you would actually have to go back and have a little rewrite, because I think it includes everything and then takes us out of it.
right,
If I read it right again,
In other words, what you're saying is, maybe we better not approve the total lease this morning.
right. And I would like to go to the meeting with you Sunday and explain it to the fairgrounds. Before we
Yeah, I might need a little help on that.
Yeah, and before we just say, we've wiped you out completely, taking this away, you didn't have any say, but you don't.
Well, we're actually talking about an improvement in the parking
Right,
area.
I think it'll help.
Because if
them
we're
in the
gonna
long run.
use it for parking
There might
stuff
be a
for
few
50 weeks of the
There
year,
might be some smaller events that they gotta look for some alternative parking, but on the larger events, it would actually improve their parking area.
That's
It
right.
would be a rocked solid surface, you know, better than the grass areas they have now and stuff to park in. And that would really give us a lot more room to spread out.
We're not talking putting a building there, we're talking about parking area.
I would think
Yeah.
just temporary movable stuff, right?
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
right, temporary movable stuff that, you know, that gets used, but yeah, you can,
Blades, trailers, things like that.
right, they're looking at a lot of their trailers and stuff like that, maybe their plows they drop off and stuff like that, that, you know, for 2 weeks you can stockpile them all in some corner.
Yeah,
pile
just
all
shove
up,
them in a
you know,
group for temporary.
Right.
Yeah.
for 2 weeks and bring them back out. They thought that would really help on the site considerably.
So do we take this back to Attorney Yant and have that section taken out as far as part of the lease agreement itself? Right?
Yep, I wouldn't mind meeting with Sam and just saying, you know, read this through again, we wanna make sure that this is
Yeah.
not in there. You haven't
Yeah.
got to where it is again, but.
Just to make sure that we've
Right.
got it done right. We
Right.
don't want to,
Where the 1 year lease part is
Yeah.
taken out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I
Okay.
haven't been.
And that's just for that one section.
Right.
I saw it on there too.
You know, without a pencil and paper to draw out what they actually have here, I don't think I can say.
And you know, I know the Ag Society, I know they've talked a couple times about having, you know, horse shows, cattle shows, goat shows, something like that. I guess, you know, the other thing would be, you know, calendar events. You know, when does this take place? How often? You know, versus,
Brian has a pretty good feel for that.
yeah.
Because they've been there for a while, doing this for a while. And he says, maybe, Scott, you correct me if I don't remember it right, but he says there are 2 or 3 pretty substantial horse shows during the course of the summer that maybe would actually, right now, use some of the area that we're talking about graveling, but of course our stuff is sitting there. Well, he feels that they could consolidate their parking and make it work
Well, and I
from
guess
what he's seen.
that would be my question too, is, you know, I know it's nice to have a huge area we can sprawl out,
Yeah, but
but is it
need,
necessary?
maybe not.
Right.
Right, you know, we gotta look at options here. We need more space and
Well,
There it is.
maybe they
Square
can, maybe they can unload their trailer and then move the trailer over to the other side of the
I'm
fairgrounds and
sure
park
when they
it.
look at it, they can find
Yeah.
plenty of spots. It's nothing like the fair. I mean, I've been to some of them and stuff, and yeah, you know, a lot of times they're small enough that nobody parks down there. Everybody parks right up around the arena. There's other times where they flow down into that area, but I think you could have found an alternate spot pretty easily.
Okay.
Yeah. But something, yeah, I think we should at least probably bring up to them before we say, you know, okay, then we're gonna have it written that way, and
Okay. So then at this point, there is not action appropriate on that.
I would say not. I would like
Yeah.
to have it written right
That's
first.
kind of the mindset I was at when I came in this morning, since I hadn't had a chance to talk to him. We just met yesterday and went through this, and he's been kind of busy in court, so, okay. Consent agenda, public notice of planning commission vacancies.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Hey,
Opposed? Okay. Discussion items, commissioner reports, et cetera. Teresa?
I didn't have any particular meetings this week. I have past week. I got several this coming week, so I'll have a good report next week. But I did get a call from a person, I think they were from Hoka, I believe, but I don't remember for sure, about the reuse discussion at the dumps, that she really felt we should be promoting reuse instead of recycling, and and wanted to express her opinion because she says she's gone, and if they see something that they could use, they will bring it home, and they don't want to see that ending. So she was real strong about that. Also, remember when they were talking about this program to test wells in Houston County, we're one of the people on the list where I have to send in water samples twice a year, and we just got it back, and it's all good, and our well is good, so.
Good news.
Yes, that's one of the good things from Soil and Water, that they got promoting checking people's wells. So I did get a call, and I have to laugh because Justin got that really nice email about lowering the, I got a call about the fact that I wanted to keep it at 1%, and I better not think about hiring an administrator. And they were very strong about it, so. And I didn't think 1% was all that bad.
No, that's still pretty good, yeah.
But anyway, I thought, oh, I know I'm gonna hear, and I did. But it was nice to see somebody positive too.
Yeah.
But, and that were my three big things right there.
Me and Jack met with Brian and Pat out to the highway shop.
You and Fred did.
Me and Fred, sorry.
It's okay, I would switch names,
Yeah,
Jack.
Brian and Pat. Very good discussion. Very helpful. Trying to look at any options we possibly could for moving stuff around, making some room. Where could we grab a little bit of room? We had, first we were going in with the idea that we needed to have a hydraulic study and to know, how much area we're gonna have to use up just to retain water, because we're gonna lose area in water retention. But Brian feels he has a fairly good hand on a percentage for close enough for now. Figures a 1 acre retention would be plenty if for the size, for the 6 acres we have now. If we were to increase and put up a lot more hard shell area, or even say we took this 1.3 acres and hardened all that with gravel or something, you might go up by 1/10 or something, but nothing, if you're gaining some, you're still gaining more than you would even if you're losing 1/10 of it to recovery area. So we didn't feel that there's a need at this point to do an actual hydraulic study, that he felt he was sure enough, close enough on the area to be able to estimate it for now. Same thing, he didn't feel that we need to spend any money at this point, seeing if stuff can fit. They're going to take it and put it on their AutoCAD system and work out how best to use the site for what we have, what they have to have on it, and work around what might possibly not fit and what we could do about it. So I thought they were that was a good start.
There's going to be some trade-offs, and we just have to, we'll get to the point where I think we're going to have a couple of different basic ideas, and then we're going to have to make some choices.
Right.
And
Yeah, we'll
go
only get
from
so
there.
far before we have to make some,
But it'll be,
it's a start.
we'll keep reporting.
Big question come up is, could certain things be stored on the 22 acres out by the high school? How would the board feel about that? They know it was kind of decided no building would go out there, but could there be storage, say, chip seal piles and, aggregate piles that they use for different road stuff that they wouldn't have to store on site here for the few times they use them? Could they go out there then and load them up, different things like that? What is our idea for the 22 acres if we go forth with building a shop on existing site?
Well, I guess initially I'd say we need to sell that 22 acres or do something. I guess I personally would be against putting stockpiles out there. Otherwise, kind of circumventing the entire issue of that 22 acres and, you know, the school being there and all that. You know, I look at, you know, we've got other not drop sites, but other satellite shops around that, you know, you do, if we expand, you know, now you've got a little bit more room for some piles too. You know, I mean, I guess I would be very hesitant doing that. You know, the other thing is, as of right now, with that being a row crop, we're getting money
Right.
for that. Now you give that up, now basically it's costing us X amount of dollars an acre to have stockpiles there. You know, I mean, that would be the other side of it. I'd worry that all of a sudden put a couple stockpiles there, and then pretty soon a couple culverts go over there, and pretty soon a couple trailers go over there, and now we're back to, you know, having that. You know, that would be my only concern.
Right. No, and I think that's a valid concern, because if we plan on selling it, we don't wanna go messing it all up with
That's the other thing, that's true,
stockpiled
too.
stuff, and then have to go through the hassle of getting it back off, possibly regrading it and
Right.
stuff after you run it all up or do whatever. But if the consensus was we're not gonna sell it, and we really came to where we can't fit on this site, then we, you know, instead of purchasing something else,
Right.
I guess maybe we should have the discussion, what is our future thoughts for selling this 22 acres?
Yeah, I think personally I would.
Selling it
Personally, I
or
would.
using it.
Right, personally, I would. I mean, and I think that money should go towards whatever we have to do
Yep.
for the
We
state
might
shop.
have to purchase
agree.
another site for stockpiling, is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, if we ended up, we just couldn't fit, we could fit everything but, say, chip piles and different things.
Where are those chip piles now?
They're there now, but as, you know, for starters, we're taking an acre away just for the pond. And that's really gonna decrease our area quite a bit. When we put covers over the salt sheds and sand,
Yeah.
really does increase your area, your loss. They're piled up in, I mean, you know, maybe if we got this 1.3 acres, we might not need any extra storage area.
I'm just wondering too, I'm not familiar enough with exactly what we own in Spring Grove, but it would seem to me that there'd be some room there from
We
just
went
driving
with all
by.
that, we went through each shop separately and had aerials of it and looked at them. And Spring Grove is the only one that has any size area at all. But the only thing they have is everything's in front towards the highway, so you know, people wouldn't like it.
Yeah, you've got the highway, and then you've got some
Start
lawn,
stockpiling.
and then you've
It's
got,
got the big green
gravel and
area out
building.
there. You know, so
and there
it's-
really
you
isn't
know, we
much
can store
behind
stuff
the
here, but
building.
Do we want to?
Right, right.
That's,
You know,
that's the
people would
rub.
definitely complain if we didn't put up a decent fence and screen around it and everything like that, but he said that is the only decent sized area we have. You know, Spring Grove and Houston are just tiny, there's nothing there.
No, Holcomb and Houston,
In Houston, they're just, there's nothing there.
no room.
And, so Spring Grove does have that front area. He said, yeah, no.
We'd have to almost put up a screening fence right along the highway.
That's what he said. It's still not as advantageous route-wise to grab it if you're here, most of your job, you're more centrally located, but he said that could be dealt with. It's not used that
Right.
terribly much. But we'd have to look at that. Are people gonna complain as soon as we start stockpiling stuff over along the highway?
Now, what would be the brainstorming the option of the guy that bought the Roverwood building has some extra ground there, leasing a,
That's what we
Spot
talked
there.
about next,
Yeah.
was going there.
That has been sold, I didn't.
well, I mean, the guy that owns it now, that
Right.
bought it from Roverwood.
You know, and
There's-
the county had leased that at one time before.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, years ago, they leased that for stockpiles, for different things. So, you know, that's what we were thinking, you know, that if if we ran out of room, you know, once we start getting this all plotted on, you know, if you gotta move stuff, you move stuff like your stockpile chip seals and stuff like that, you know, especially if you can get them to someplace easy. You're not wrecking anybody, you're not putting up a building, you're not, you know, you do a 5-year lease, and if it ain't working after 5 years, you find something else, but, you know, those kind of areas can be found a lot easier where you're not putting a structure or don't need water or anything else.
That's true.
So I think that they're working hard at looking at options to fit on this site. Which brought up cold storage with the fairgrounds. A lot of the extra area they were looking at, they were looking at a pretty large area that the sheriff's department wants put in for their stuff. They have a building there. They have a building now, did they say, Fred, or they want a building? They had quite a few square feet that was put into this.
To the sheriff department?
Right.
I don't think
all
they're
their-
leasing anything from the fairgrounds right now. I
No.
don't know for sure. I think it's all on the highway department that they're using. But they aren't using as much as they used to because of that online
Right.
auction situation.
And I mean, you know, the fair wants to put up that building.
Right.
Then I wondered, is there a way to work something out with them that, most of the things for the sheriff's department, if I understand correctly, a lot of them are gonna be vehicles
I would think.
that you could take in and out during
So
the
I asked
fair.
the county, they didn't have a clue what they have in the buildings they have now, but I said, you know,
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's not stuff they can't remove either.
And that would be something where you could, I'm sure you could even say that, you know, we'll lease the space, except for the 2 weeks, you know, the week before and the week after the fair. You know.
That's what Brian is doing, is getting me a square footage, getting us a square footage, what he thinks he could put in there
Yep.
to keep off of this site and keep us from building any more cold storage than we have to
Yep.
on site.
Yep.
You know, if they already built it and the lease could be done at a cheap enough price, which is right next door.
Well, and here's the other thing, you know, the fair, this number, I'm pulling out of air, but for some reason I thought it was that they were gonna make like $4,200 or something leasing for boats and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Well, to be honest with you, for $4,200, let's say to keep the county a place to be, the fair gets their money for storage that they were getting. Be pretty inexpensive storage, or I mean, the point I'm getting at is we could probably work out an agreement that even if it was highway stuff and sheriff stuff in that building, and there is no storage for, you know, boats
Campers.
or campers or
Right.
whatever, fine. You know, they're
Right.
getting the same that they would have.
Yeah, and they don't have to hassle with it. I mean, if you ever seen them put those campers in, a lot of one employee's time goes into doing that too.
Well, then the liability if something happened, you
Right.
wreck somebody's camper, where
Right. Some of that was pretty scary. I mean, they pack them in and they're inches apart.
Some of the sheriff's department stuff might have to be secure storage.
but that building would be, I'm assuming, lockable.
Yeah, but then we'd have to kind of monitor the key situation a bit.
Mhm. And I would assume if you only had, you know, in theory, there should only be a few people with those keys anyways, I would think, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And, I mean, yeah, that's something we'd have to work out down the road, but
yeah.
that's what we were looking at is, you know, then approaching the fair board on lease.
Yeah.
For the sheriffs and the counties.
Okay.
And I would think, you know, the sheriff should just about be involved in his lease
Mhm.
instead of putting leased, or putting a sheriff storage on the county shop.
Well, there's a fair board meeting next Sunday evening, and I will talk to the sheriff before that
Yeah, great, okay.
and find out just exactly what he does have in mind, and
So,
we'll go from there.
yeah. Because I know off that drawing, he had a certain square footage they wanted for sheriffs. Does he still want that same amount? Because I'm assuming that's coming out of his budget now, it's not just coming out of the counties like it,
Yeah.
out of the highways, it kind of
It
was.
shouldn't, yeah,
You know, they're supplying the building
come out of
and
the
everything
sheriff's
else.
budget instead of the highway budget.
Mhm.
Okay?
That's all I got.
That's pretty good, Scott. It took about, what, 15 minutes or so there. That's
Saying I thought you were
really,
French.
you're on a roll, boy.
Stop me.
Justin.
The only thing that I had written down, and Teresa kind of already touched base on it, was a drop site deal. As far as that discussion goes, I wasn't sure where we were still at with that. I will say that I went to the dump site the other day. My buddy Dave, we were building a race car, a little Hornet car for him. So we had a Neon and we stripped it down and we had to get rid of a bunch of stuff. So we were at the dump on Saturday, and I had some metal that was going into the container. And I walked into the container to put the metal down. And I was looking around, and I was like, that could be useful. I could see somebody wanting that. You know what I mean? It was just, there was a lot of things that I was like, boy, you know, it was just good stuff. And you know, unlike my stuff that's junk, you know, there was a lot of things that I think people had put in there saying, well, I don't really need this, you know, this
I think
snowblower
Jeff
that still
brought that
works,
up
but
with
whatever.
Bernie
you know.
Beeler, didn't you?
Pardon?
You said Bernie Beeler mentioned something about sending tools and stuff to Haiti.
Yeah, we need to get, or really need to find out where Fred, here's Fred. Yeah, zoning. Rick, where that's at, because what Bernie Beeler from La Crescent was doing was if somebody brought in tools that could be refurbished, they'd refurbish them, take them to Rochester, and then they get, once they get a big container full, they send them to Haiti. And would hate to see that program discontinued, but the example like Teresa used though is, first of all, the state says it's county property, and the second thing is, oh, well, I want that snow blower. Well, a guy just stopped the other day, said he's coming back for it, but you know, you don't want to get into a wrestling match over things either, so there's
Like
gotta
Rick
be
says,
some.
it's our metal bin that he worries about. If you don't exclude the metal bin, that's a lot of our profit going back to pay for the waste.
Right.
Well, and I think too, you know, that's where, as far as somebody wanting something, be first come, first serve. Get it. If you're gonna come back for it, I can't guarantee it's still gonna be
Yeah,
here.
you
It's
could
first come,
never-
first serve.
You'd have to.
And everybody has the opportunity to come and get something. Hey, pop it on a Saturday and look or something. There you, as far as a metal bin goes, you know, looking at a lot of the stuff that was in there, there's say one or two objects. Like children's bicycle, cool. The rest of it is like stuff that I brought, an old satellite dish. You can't even use it. Like you physically cannot use it. So nobody's gonna need that. That, you know, so if somebody was in there and said, oh, I really want this old satellite dish, I would kind of start to hesitate and go, well,
What for?
what
Yeah.
for? You know, where now you're just using it for scrap
Uh-huh.
metal versus,
Right.
you know, like a snowblower that it's like, okay, I understand this is something you could actually use.
I don't think we have a real big problem with this until this came up with
Yeah, I
this.
don't know that we really did either.
Uh-uh.
No, I think
Well,
it's
Rick
a few.
is, I have to check with him what the latest, he got back from Sam, but, you know, there seems to be a
Common sense here.
compromise area here.
That's the other thing, the common
Yeah.
sense side of
Yeah.
it. that-
There's lots of room there.
Yeah.
Well, and, you know, I talked to a couple of the drop site individuals in Houston, and they were upset. And they said, you know, this is, because, a great example, we had a mattress, queen size mattress. It was a good mattress, it's just, we updated and got a new mattress, whatever. And one of the guys that works there had said, are you throwing this away? And I said, yeah, it's a good mattress, but we got a new one, so I don't need another one. He said, well, I'm looking for a queen size mattress. I'd take it.
Right.
Great. Now it doesn't go into the landfill.
Because
That's
we
a
have to
great
pay to get
situation.
rid of mattresses.
Right, so that's a great situation of reuse worked,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's what I'd like to try and protect,
Right.
you know.
And that's the whole idea behind
That's right.
recycling.
That's, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I think we need to see where this is at with Sam
Yep.
and Rick and,
Yeah,
if they
Rick
have-
and Kevin were working on that, and I
Yeah.
haven't heard a word for
No.
some time, so we need to,
I think pretty much
Follow up.
anybody's agreed.
Follow up a
We'd like
little
to see
bit, yeah.
recycle, we just hate to see any one person be able to take advantage.
And that's
Right.
the thing, it's taking advantage of it. And maybe we need to give more authority to those people working there to use some common sense and say, you are in charge of this. And with that authority comes the responsibility that if you are violating this, you could get prosecuted for it too. You know, I mean, just,
Right.
and here you go, that's why you're hired, is to manage and operate.
Right.
Manage and operate, you know. Anyway, that was my thing.
Yeah, okay. Jack?
Well, I've got about 5 minutes more than what Scott had.
Oh, gee.
Oh, dear. Well, okay.
Actually, you know,
If
I-
Sam doesn't
Yeah.
show up, we're good.
No, I had no meetings of consequence. I did check with Corky's in terms of using that facility for the retreat. That date's open. We would have to just decide a time, and then do we want some donuts and coffee? Do we want anything else? That would be something I'd need to talk to him about if you would decide one way or another. So
Is he normally open in the mornings?
he opens for Rotary meets there, but he said he's there. So,
Oh,
so I guess first we'd have to
Donuts and
decide.
coffee would be sufficient.
I would think,
yeah.
yeah. Some pastry.
Scott was
and-
gonna bring donuts.
I can't really bring Caledonia Bakery donuts probably into his establishment,
Well, he gets them from area
but
bakery.
I'm
so,
assuming he wants to sell them to us, not.
Yeah, he wants
Yeah,
some
okay.
remuneration.
Which I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and, but we'd have to decide on the time. Are we looking at 9?
So I was kind of thinking keep it at 9.
9 till?
Whenever.
Whenever?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'll get- And
Now,
I'll
what's
keep-
what's the official name
What's
of
his lunch special?
what's the name of
well,
the
that's the
place
other thing.
here?
If we're there long
How
enough,
long?
I need lunch
Yeah.
there too, right?
I'll,
Well, since leaving at 11:30, we can get
I'll
lunch.
email you if there's anything
Changes.
changes or quirks.
Okay, this is in the Crescent
Yeah,
someplace.
it's right across from the IGA.
Right across from, right in downtown La Crescent.
I think I can find that.
Yeah. Yeah, right, yeah, Scott said, right across from the IGA parking lot.
Now, as you're coming up the street, it's on the right.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's Corky's Pizza and Ice Cream or something.
Yeah, essentially, but Corky's is identifiable.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Now, is there anything that anybody has that they would like for me to bring up at department heads meeting at 1 o'clock today?
Seems like it's been going pretty good from what you said last month.
Yeah. I'm sure we will talk a little bit about the, now what's the term, the administrator thing. I'm sure there'll be some discussion about that. But there was some last time too, and we'll deal with it. Now, are we going to have a formal agenda for that meeting on the 30th, or how are we going to do that? I've got one thing in my mind that I'd like to spend some time on, and we might, if we haven't already done it, we need to do a little prep time on it. The administrator situation, if we haven't looked at those, I think there were 10 of them, job descriptions. If you hadn't sorted through that yet, probably better be sorting through it.
Yep.
I've found a couple of them that I think are decently comprehensive and not too terribly long that we could possibly use for models and then add and subtract a little bit from that. as
I
a-
think
as
we need to have a
starting
little
point.
bit of discussion about the old jail, you know, where we can all talk to each other about.
There was
Again,
going
the
to be-
highway department.
Yeah.
Is there a meeting involving that situation
Yes,
sometime soon?
I'm been invited to attend that meeting that day from 5 to 7:30, so I think it would be
JOUs.
very advantageous to discuss it
Well,
that
Okay,
morning.
what meeting are you going to?
The jail reuse.
Oh, jail reuse study, okay. Yeah, we should discuss that.
So if we
Yep.
discuss
So
it in
we're all
the
on the
morning,
same
and then
page
that
a little
meeting is
bit.
at 5 to 7:30 that evening, so.
well, I guess I would say this.
I would like to, me personally, have the meeting kind of somewhat informal, just discussion, whatever. But with the topics, that I think the administrator topic would take the majority of discussion. I think, you know,
That'll
lengthy
take some
discussion.
time. Sure it will.
And then, you know, the jail thing, you know, and if there's anything else, I mean, just to kind of put a rough, these are the topics we should talk about, but not necessarily a
Yeah.
formal.
Yeah, well, we aren't gonna make any
And
motions. on
even
it.
with the
It's just
highway department, if you
discussions.
come up with anything, we should
Yeah.
be kept updated on that.
And I think if there's anything somebody wants, just bring it up, let's talk.
Well,
Yeah.
the idea in
That's the
talking
idea.
about it now is that then we've got a little time to do some prep work on it,
Right.
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 so,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's good.
Okay? Does anybody have Attorney Yount's cell phone number?
Let me call him.
Yeah, if
I don't know if I got it.
whoever comes up with it first could call him and ask him how it's going and when he might be able to be here, and we can just simply recess until that time, because we're, well, there's no public to comment.
725.
Decide who's going to the
We need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll start that
Excuse me.
up. Chairman Arnold, I would ask that the board go into closed session pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D05 subdivision 3B, parens B. And the reason would be to discuss Houston County Auditor versus Houston County Board of Commissioners pending lawsuit.
Okay,
I would move that we go into closed session per our attorney's direction.
Second.
You guys should
All those-
endorse.
I got it.
Okay, and then Shar, you'll have to, just to make a statement, we previously had been in closed session regarding Houston County Auditor versus Houston County Board of Commissioners. During the discussions, it was consensus of the board members that I would continue to represent Houston County in this matter, the Houston County Attorney's Office would, and that I would provide them with additional information regarding the status of the case as I receive it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did not get who made the motion to go into closed session and who made a motion to go out.
To go out, Jack just made it.
I just made it to go out. I think I made it to go in.
Yeah, I think you made it to
I
go
did
into-
the second on going,
in.
I think I did in and out.
I had the second on going.
And I
out.
was the second going in.
Okay? Okay. Motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, we're adjourned.